Hi there, folks. Welcome to Sumit Academy. This is my first video on AFSPA, and I will be talking about its historical background and as to why the government felt a need for such an act. Let us have a look at one of the most controversial issues dogging some parts of our country, namely the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, or AFSPA as it is commonly known. Many security experts bat for AFSPA, whereas scores of academia and human rights activists call for its abolition. They argue that since armed forces misuse the provisions to kill people, the immunity given under AFSPA to armed forces personnel should be ended. Supreme Court in its decision of 2016 said that any encounter carried out by armed forces in the garb of AFSPA should be subjected to thorough inquiry. But despite a lot of hoopla about AFSPA, many of us don't know much about it. In this series of videos on AFSPA, we shall attempt to project both sides of the issue, the reason for its existence, as well as the strident opposition to it by both the terrorists and the human rights groups. Let's have a look at the historical background of AFSPA. How did it come about? The British had promulgated the Armed Forces Special Powers Ordinance in 1942 to suppress the Quit India movement. The roots of the law go back to colonial policing, where the army and the police were viewed as complementary and not as alternative forces of control. Modelled on these lines, four ordinances, the Bengal Disturbed Areas Special Powers of Armed Forces Ordinance, the Assam Disturbed Areas Special Powers of Armed Forces Ordinance, the East Bengal Disturbed Areas Special Powers of Armed Forces Ordinance, and the United Provinces Disturbed Areas Special Powers of Armed Forces Ordinance were invoked by the central government in 1947 to deal with the internal security situation. The central government empowered the governors of the states and administrators of union territories to take a call whether the areas of that particular state or union territory is disturbed or not. These ordinances, which later became acts, were repealed in 1957, but a year later reenacted in Assam and Manipur as the Armed Forces Assam and Manipur Special Powers Act 1958 due to growing Naga insurgency. Later, this name was substituted by Armed Forces Special Powers Act 1958, getting the acronym of AFSPA 1958. In the case of AFSPA, Manipur and Assam, the Government of India used Article 355 of the Constitution to confer power in the hands of the governors. Keeping in view the duty, and this I quote now, keeping in view the duty of the Union under Article 355 of the Constitution, inter alia, to protect every state against internal disturbance, it is considered desirable that the central government should also have the power to declare areas as disturbed to enable its armed forces to exercise the special powers. Gradually, the scope of the Act was extended to all 7 states of the Northeast. Later, The act was extended to Punjab and Chandigarh via the Armed Forces Punjab and Chandigarh Special Powers Act in 1983 to enable the Central Armed Forces to operate in the state of Punjab and the Union Territory of Chandigarh. The act was enforced in the whole of Punjab and Chandigarh on 15th October 1983 to counter the Khalistan movement initiated by separatists who were demanding a separate nation for the Sikhs. It was removed in 1997 after a period of 14 years. But the state government removed its Disturbed Area Act only in 2008. Most of us don't even know that the capital of Punjab and Haryana, Chandigarh, was under the Disturbed Area Act till 2012, when the Punjab and Haryana High Court struck it down in September that year. In 1990, the Armed Forces Jammu and Kashmir Special Powers Act was enacted. Despite militancy finding its feet in Kashmir in the late 1970s, till 1990, Kashmir and AFSPA were alien to each other. However, as you are aware, it has been under AFSPA ever since. Despite then having a separate constitution, J&K government of Farooq Abdullah lapsed its Disturbed Area Act but couldn't do much about AFSPA. The centre argued that despite the state government lapsing its act, the state can still be declared disturbed under Section 3 of AFSPA. The question now arises, can the armed forces be called in for internal security duties? Well, yes. In exceptional cases, in specified areas where the central government may deem it as a matter of grave disturbance and national importance, as insurgents of a different genre, sponsored by state and non-state actors from across the border are involved, the Indian Army, and in some cases the Indian Air Force, is called upon to bear the additional burden of internal security. Now you may well ask, are the armed forces authorized to act within the country? Does our constitution permit it? Military involvement in internal security is explicitly prohibited in India and is restricted to authorized military aid to civil authority as part of the principle of civilian control of the military, like in the cases of disaster management. However, keeping in view the threat from across the border, special powers had to be made and enacted to grant the armed forces authority to operate within the country for internal security duties. This is known as the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. So your next question obviously will be as to why the police can't carry out these duties. Handling problems related to law and order and internal security is the basic function of the police. But more often than not, police departments are found ill-equipped and ill-trained to effectively handle such situations. In conclusion, let us remember that having experienced a number of regional separatist struggles and instability created by radical religious and political movements, any government will have no patience for public disorder. Hence, the need to bring in a trained force to deal with the mammoth internal security problem. Well, that's it from me on this, the first of my videos on AFSPA. In the next one, I shall deal with as to when, under what circumstances can AFSPA be imposed, why it is required to be imposed, and the rationale behind promulgated this act. I do hope that the points I have given you are enough to build your 250 to 350 word answer. Remember, the UPSC examiners are pretty strict about the word limit, so always read the instructions on the number of words before you start writing your answer. Till then, as we always do, stay cheerful and do remember to like and subscribe to my channel so that you do not miss out on my future videos. In case you have any doubts or you want additional videos, do remember to drop me a line at sumitacademy20@gmail.com or do drop me a comment below this video. Cheers!